Today is the start of our new topic, which is multicellular organisms. And to start off with, we're going to be looking at our specialized cells here. So, our key learning intentions is to be able to explain how there are specialized cells in our body, and this is due to the expression of different genes. So, of course, within our body, there are 200 different types of cells that make up the 37.2 trillion cells that come together to make you. So, of course, each structure helps the cell with its function within the body. And we're going to go through a few of these examples and how, in fact, that structure helps its function. So, of course, here I've got a few examples of our different types of cells in the body. So the first one here we have is, of course, a red blood cell. So red blood cells shape helps their movement through the tiny blood vessels. So of course they've got this kind of weird dip in here, and so it's a bit of a concave shape, and of course they're kind of circular as well. This shape also actually helps to increase the surface area, which helps diffuse oxygen faster. So our O2 helps this to diffuse faster. There also has no nucleus as well. So this lack of nucleus also helps with being able to fit more oxygen inside of each of these red blood cells. Okay, so really important structure for that O2 diffusion, and of course it does also carry around waste products like carbon dioxide and others from our cells. So these guys are very important within our body, so they are very specialized. The next one we have here is a nerve cell. So our nerve cells have this long branch, of course, and that there is for communication. And then, of course, they've got lots of other things branching off as well. So these are all little things required for that communication between all of our different other cells. You might have also noticed this little sheath here. So these little yellow um, structures that are surrounding the nerve cell, and pretty much what this is for is protection, and it also helps increase message relay, so the speed in which messages get carried throughout the body. So again, very highly specialized for its function. Now, this next one here should be quite familiar, especially considering that we've gone through infectious disease. So this is not just a white cell, but in fact a white blood cell. Now, this is, of course, one of many white blood cells, but for this particular one here, what we want to be looking at is we can see it has lots of little divots and everything around, so we can see all these little curves and divots of this white blood cell. And essentially, what this is it's increasing surface area for engulfing foreign pathogens. So, right, it's that increase of surface area. So, if this is engulfing pathogens, we can probably predict that this particular white cell might be a phagocyte. Now, our next one down here, so this is a muscle cell. Well, it's not just one muscle cell, it's actually multiple muscle cells. So they have this really elongated structure here, and muscle cells actually do look different depending on what type of muscle it is. If it's like smooth muscle or any of the other ones, which we will go into more detail later on. So muscle cells, they have an increase, right, in mitochondria. And remembering that mitochondria is what provides our cells with energy. Okay, so mitochondria is energy. So thinking about, well, our muscle cells have a higher concentration of mitochondria, which would make sense because it is making energy. Okay, that's what these muscle cells are doing. I think particularly your heart, that's a muscle as well. Again, it has a very high concentration of mitochondria. This next one here, so this is in fact, and it kind of looks gross, but these are our epithelial cells. So epithelial cells, and otherwise known as our skin cells, right? So we can see here that we've got many, many different thin layers, and these thin layers are overlapping each other. And this allows for that constant dividing to replace lost and dead cells, right? We shed a lot of dead skin cells every single day. Um, but the reason why we have all these overlapping layers is actually to make it tougher to penetrate into our own inside of our body, right? We remember from our infectious disease that the skin is a first line of defense, so it makes sense as there's lots of thin layers and barriers here to help protect and to protect anything from penetrating into our skin. Now, this next one here, and the last one we're going to be looking at, is our sperm cell. So again, sperm cells are in fact highly specialized here. So we've got this really long tail, and of course that's going to be for movement, right? One of the very main things that sperm are doing, they're moving towards the woman's egg or to try and penetrate and make a fertilized egg. So of course, with our sperm cells here, in the head of it, we've actually got our genetic material. And this is, of course, where I guess you get the genetic material from the father, because, of course, sperm are generated by males. And we also have, again, mitochondria in the central portion for energy. Okay, so again, that's that kind of relating the organelle of the mitochondria to its function. So you'll find mitochondria are in quite a few of our different cells, providing energy to them, right? Every single cell needs mitochondria. It just might mean that some have higher concentrations than others, again, such as that muscle cell, or in this case here, that sperm needs that movement, so in fact, it does need mitochondria. So, of course, we've just talked about a lot of the differences between them, the differences being their structure, again, which is crucial for their function in the body. But of course, we've got to look at their similarities. So, the similarity between this is actually their genes. Okay? They have the exact same genes in every single one of them. And those genes, of course, are found in the nucleus. So I guess the main thing is, well, how in fact do these cells look so different despite having the exact same genes? And this is due to gene expression. And what this means is that our genes within these cells have the ability to turn themselves off and on. They choose which genes to express. And through those expressed genes, we have all of these different types of structures within our cells and our body. So, of course, gene expression is very important. So, it's primarily occurs in our growing embryo. So, yes, once that specialized sperm cell penetrates the specialized egg cell of the mother and it forms a lovely zygote, which then starts growing and becomes an embryo, that's where all that cell differentiation occurs. Okay? So, differentiation being how everything becomes its own thing and specialized. So, of course, as adults, once we're fully grown, our specialized cell undergoes mitosis. Remember that mitosis is cell division. And this allows for the creation of that same type of cell. So think your heart, okay? It's probably, over time your heart has shed and created new cells to replace itself once old heart cells have died. And of course, that would have been done through division. So you've probably regenerated, I guess, for lack of a better term, a new heart over time. It's not the same heart you were born with, they're brand new cells over time that replace each other through cell division, right? No cell lasts forever. In embryos, however, like I said, those cells need to start from scratch. So once your egg has been fertilized, it does begin to divide through mitosis. And after about a week, we have what's called embryonic stem cells. And so this is a pretty important term here, stem cells. These are what our cells can differentiate into other cells types in the body. So there's a lot of stem cell research that's occurring right now, which pretty much means we're trying to figure out how we can make stem cells express and turn on certain genes to try and help the regeneration of, maybe cells in another person's body that have been lost. Okay, so think about burn victims and their skin that they've lost. How can we use stem cell research to try and make those stem cells differentiate into new skin cells that aren't damaged like the other ones are? So think stem cells, they differentiate into other types of cells in the body. So there's two different types of stem cells. We've got pluripotent stem cells, so these come from an embryo, okay, and they have the capability of differentiating into any type of cell, okay, brand new, fresh out the womb, I guess you can almost say, but it's inside the womb, and they're differentiating at that time. So I think that small egg over time is going into an embryo, and those cells are slowly differentiating to those different parts of your body. The other type is the multipotent stem cell, and these can only differentiate into some other cell types. So think back when we were doing our infectious disease and we're looking at the immune system, our bone marrow makes and generates pretty much a lot of our red blood cells and our white blood cells. Okay, so those cells that have been created in the bone marrow, they've got the potential to become different types of white blood cells or maybe even red blood cells, right? So they are particular stem cells for a particular function in the body.